Hello and welcome to Treasure in Every Verse. I'm your host, author and Bible teacher Kevin Madison. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, friends, we're back and we're going to get right back into where we were last time. And I was explaining, sort of getting into depth a little bit on the three phases of the new birth. And we had just started wrapping up the human spirit and what that was all about. Essentially, folks, each one of these stages, each one of these phases that we go through for salvation. I mean, God lays it out in the scriptures. I'm only giving you just a very, very small sample, but you guys hear me say stuff like, you must die. And I know for some people, man, that just bothers the mess out of them. The fact that God requires a death really bothers people because they really think that for whatever reason they can help God and that God needs their help. And it's just not true. And really what happened is it's the way we were taught over the years to present the gospel to people. And it started off before Billy Graham, with the come forward and raising of the hand and saying a prayer after me. Folks, that act right there. I'm not gonna say that it's demonic, I don't know. But I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt in my heart and mind, that thing, this saying of a prayer in declaring people saved because they said a prayer. Friend, that is the most unbiblical. It's not even doctrine. It's not the doctrine of God. Well, if it's not the doctrine of God, it had to come from the devil. Folks, listen. That's not in the book. And if that's what you're dependent on to get to heaven, you're going to end up being one of those people in Matthew 7 where you're claiming, God, didn't I do this? Didn't I go to church? Didn't I do all these wonderful things in your name? Didn't I, stand on the corner, with a book? Didn't I go to abortion, anti-abortion rallies? Didn't I do all kind of good stuff? And God's going to say to you, depart from me, ye what? Worker of iniquity. Why, Lord? Because I never knew you. How does God know people? He creates them. Do you understand that? God doesn't know people because people talk to him. That's a human thing. How does God know people? He tells us in the book. Again, I do this so often because people tend to move away from that which is true and take people's word for stuff as if they have their best, intentions for you. What does that have to do with going to heaven? Nothing. God tells you right here, without a doubt, how do God know people? Let me go to Matthew 7 first, and then I'll compare what's being said right here to Matthew 7. Listen to this is what people think about salvation. I can go to any church assembly. I can go to any church assembly and ask every single person that's in there. Okay? Every single one. And I can almost guarantee you, folks, because I talk to religious people all the time, 99% of these folks would tell me about some event that happened that proved their salvation. They said a prayer at some point in time. They went forward. They cried, "I was sincere." What in the world does any of that have to do with the new birth? How can that cause you? That's the question you really should be asking yourself. How can those things cause you to be born again? Because Jesus, who happens to be God, said you must be born again. Explain that to me, please. And Jesus said that to the most religious man in Judaism at that time. He was doing everything that you're claiming you're doing, and he was doing it a lot better than you. Yet Jesus told him, you are on your way to hell. You and your religion. And there's nothing you can do about it. Not everyone who says to me, who's this me talking? This is Jesus. This is God. Listen to what Jesus says. Jesus says, these people are running around calling me Lord. These are not Muslims. How do I know that? Because they don't call Jesus Lord. These are not Hindus. These are not your atheists. These are not, anybody outside of the so-called Christian world. These are people who think that they are Christian believers. They call Jesus Lord. And they're so pious, they use it twice. Lord, Lord. As if that's going to make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't even matter that you call him Lord. Kevin, I acknowledge, no, you did not. He says you just called him that. Does it matter that you use religious jargon? No. What in the world does that have to do with the new birth? Nothing. Shall enter what? The kingdom. We talked about this last time, friends. There are two kingdoms. Natural birth gets you into the first kingdom. It is the kingdom of Adam and Satan. So, you are born into that kingdom through natural birth. What do I have to do to be born into that kingdom? Nothing. You simply have to be conceived. How do you get into this kingdom? That's the question you need to ask. What's the answer? The answer is conception. That's how you get in. Right there. What do I do? You do nothing. Adam is your father and Satan is your God. You say, I don't worship Satan. Yes, you do. Even if you don't know it. Yes, you do. Even if you don't understand it. You started the very second you were conceived. And if you didn't die, how do I get out of this kingdom? How can I get out? And that's the question you and I both need to answer. How do anyone get out of that kingdom? You got into it through natural birth. How can you get out? The Bible makes it extremely clear. The only pathway out of this kingdom is death. That's it, friends. There's no other way out of that kingdom. You can't pray your way out. You can't sing enough songs to get out. You can't denounce Satan. Satan, yeah, rebuke you. Get out of here, man. You can't get out the kingdom that way. You got into it through birth. The only exit is the portal of death. You have to die. Why? Why is that the only portal out of this kingdom? Come on, you tell me. What does the book say? Do you know? Do you know? You should know, because this is the only way you're going to heaven. How am I getting out of that kingdom? You say, Kevin, it's death. You just told me it's death. I didn't tell you anything. That's what the book said. I showed you that last time. The question is why? That's your answer. The soul that sins. What about it? What does the Bible say about that particular soul? It must die. Did Kevin say that? No. No. You can call him Lord, Lord, all day long in this kingdom, and it won't make a difference at all. You can go get water baptized every second of every day. You can bow yourself and call yourself worshiping the one true God all day long, and the only person going to receive that praise is Satan. Do you understand what I'm telling you? As long as you are in this kingdom, you are dead to God. He can't hear you. You can't hear from him. Jesus said, God is the God of the living, not the dead. As long as you're here, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter where you go. Your behavior means absolutely nothing, because you are in another kingdom. So these people living in this kingdom, they start doing something. They start calling Jesus Lord. He says, you ain't entering my kingdom. Why? Because you're in this one. But he who does, you say, oh, you see, I did God's will. What's the will of God? What's the will of God? For everybody in this kingdom, what's the will of God for those people? Say a prayer. Come on, really? How's that going to get rid of your sin? Attend church. How's that going to get rid of your sin? Be water baptized. How's that going to get rid of your sin? Speak in tongues. Folks, you're asking the wrong question. Ask the right question. How is any of the things you're going to name me going to get rid of your sins? If the answer to that is it can't, then you still have a problem. You need to get rid of your sin. Then you need a second thing. What's that? You need to be raised from the dead, because the only way to get rid of your sin is through the portal of death. Now tell me how prayer is going to raise you from the dead. How singing some religious song going to raise you from the dead? How's anything you can ever tell me? How is that going to raise you from the dead and give you life? It can't. Folks, please. They do the will of my Father. He happens to be in heaven. If the will of the Father is that you do something, Jesus should tell you. Many will say to me in that day, judgment day, Lord, Lord, have we not? Now listen, they're doing things. They call themselves prophesying. And they did it in his name. They call themselves casting out demons. And they did it in his name. They said they've done many wonders and signs and miracles. They spoke in tongues. They picked up serpents and bit him, and it didn't hurt him. They received their healing. Only God's children are healed, right? Really? Are you kidding me? But then, that's that word again, I will declare something. And I'm going to declare it to them. My children? No, they're not my children. I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice what? What are they practicing? What did Jesus call their prophecies? They're speaking in tongues. What did Jesus call their rebuking of Satan and all kind of other stuff? What did Jesus call their healings and getting of money and all the things you can think of? What did Jesus call it? Jesus says it's absolute lawlessness. It's wickedness, it's sin. Why? Because it's being performed by somebody who's in a totally different kingdom. Folks, get this wrong and you're going to end up in hell. And many of you have it wrong. So, oh, Kevin, you're claiming have some exclusive. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. All I have is what the books say. I don't know anything. I don't care to know anything. All I know, though, for a fact, is what this says. All right, let's go back. Excuse me.